Test, test. Hey, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Good.
Second. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me.
That's all good. I say you have to bear with me. I'm outside at my parents' house, so hopefully, they don't decide to grade the road or.
All right, so let's see here. Why is this meetings? Looks good. Right. Cool. Ooh, okay. Let's see if that works.
Looks like I can see you on Facebook. I can see myself on Facebook.
Yeah, okay. So why can't I see us on Facebook?
Yeah, it's slightly delayed.
Can't I see?
This is
Right. So click the event. Okay. So we're live on my hmm, well, that's important.
Hi, Jamie. She just sent a message.
Hmm. Well, let's see here. Yeah, weird. I see you on my Facebook page.
Yeah, it's not on the event on Facebook, but I can see you are currently going live. Like I can see that through, but
Um, well, that's freaking annoying. All right, what we're gonna do, Kyla, is so we're just gonna do the interview. I'm
great.
gonna end the live. Um, and we'll just go from there and we'll make it available for people to download.
Perfect.
All right, give me a second. All right. Well, we tried to go live, gang. Couldn't figure out how to do it. It's first live. We'll figure out how to do it for next time. Anyway, so Kyla, thanks for joining me. Thanks for your patience while I fiddled around trying to make this thing work.
It's all good.
I appreciate it. All right. So why don't we start with give me some background info on you? Like, how old are you? Where are you from? That kind of stuff.
35, just turned 35 last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am from New Hampshire, small town, very close to Enfield.
Awesome.
So within traveling distance of the gym.
Okay.
I played softball growing up my entire life. Led what I thought was a pretty active lifestyle, but have been overweight since as long as I can remember. So
Okay.
probably I turned like 12, 13, that age group. Um, so lacked kind of confidence, skills, tools, etc. And then I had some blood work done. Nothing like uber concerning, but it was enough that with my family history, that I decided to look for a gym, and make a change. And I found KDR online, and I started in May of 2024.
Love it. Love it. All right. So you said some things there I wanted to highlight. So first of all, you said that you have been overweight for as long as you can remember. So going back to like when you were a teenager, right?
Yep.
The other thing you said, and I thought was really interesting, is, and maybe I misheard you, but you said you lacked the confidence that you wanted to, and then you also lacked skills and tools. Do you mean skills and tools to be able to lose the weight, to be at a healthy weight? Like, what do you mean by that? I think it was
Um,
pretty cool.
so a couple things. Skills in terms of eating the right amount of food and the right type of food, and then what to do in the gym, what to do with my body. How, I mean, there's this magical number out there of 10,000 steps a day, but why?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I had done like the Beachbody 21 day fix, and I've done the all the resets, and as kind of your shtick is, it's actually you are there for maintenance, not for losing the weight.
Right.
And so that's something I've learned through this process. So once I got done with those programs, I didn't have any continuing tools.
Hmm.
So it was like, oh, here's 21 days. Great. I can do anything for 21 days. It's
Yeah.
only 21 days. And then, great, I lost 15 pounds. Okay, gain it back in half the time, that sort of piece.
Yes.
And then what's kept me going, and the piece that I think I appreciate the most, is the accountability. You're with 21 Day Fix, you can work with a coach, you can, but it's not the same.
Hmm.
Because I feel like you build a relationship with your trainer. They get to know you, they get to know you at your worst, they get to know you when you're feeling your best. And so what I've gained and some of the things that I've found are the tools that I need for when I'm at my worst and for when I'm at my best.
I'm just making some notes because you're saying some cool things. Um, yeah, a lot of times when you do, that was a good one. A lot of times when you do those programs like the Hard 75, 21 Day Fix, like you do these very specific kind of programs and you're given a coach. The coach is really there just to like help you do the program. The coach isn't there to customize the program for you because if you're doing this thing like Hard 21 or Hard 75 or whatever the case may be, right? Whatever short-term program, then the coach can't change the program because if they change the program, then they're going to change the results of that program, right? Whereas when we write a program for you, well, we're writing it for you. And
Yeah.
so we can change that program because the program is written for you. It's not written for 1,000 people that we need to keep exactly the same to help these 1,000 people. No, we have to change the program, right? And we mostly have to change the program. You said a really cool thing. You have tools for when you're at your worst and tools for when you're at your best. And mostly when we have to change the program, it's because of the one of those two situations. It's because you're at your worst. And so, okay, we gotta, drop down on maybe some steps, or maybe we have to, back off on food, whatever whatever that means that you're at your worst. But then also at your best, like, hey, in the summer, okay, Kyla's a teacher. So in the summer, she has a little bit more free time available to her. So, right?
Yeah. Usually,
Theoretically,
yes.
theoretically, right?
In theory.
Uh, right. Cool. In the summer, nicer outside in New England. That means we are way more likely to get out and get more steps in. So maybe during the school year, our step count's 8,000. And then when it's really nice outside, maybe we go to 12,000, 14,000. Right. And that's just kind of the tools. Hey, I'm at my best here. What are the tools I need? And I'm at my worst here. What are the tools I need? And then that's where we come in to help get those tools. Um, so I thought that was really awesome. Another thing I thought was really cool, and I'm so glad you brought it up. Maintenance is always the goal, right? A lot of people, they want to lose weight, which is fantastic. Um, Most of the people that I talk to, if they were successful, like 99% of people I talk to, they have accomplished a transformation in the past, right? So I was like kind of like stalking your Facebook a little bit, and I had seen some pictures that you had posted, I think in 2018. And and these were these before and afters. You look great,
Yeah.
right? But unfortunately, you weren't able to maintain the results. And that's the norm. The
Yeah.
norm is that people have a hard time maintaining the results. Um, the norm is that people can go on a short-term program, 6-week program, 21, whatever, and they can focus for that period of time and they can lose, just like you said, they lose the weight and then they put all the way back on half the time it took them to lose it, right? And that's where we really have to get people to shift their mindset around because the goal isn't just to lose the 30 pounds, it's to lose 10 pounds and keep it off for the rest of your life. And you're like, cool, now I know how to lose 10 pounds and keep it off. Great. Now let me lose another 10 pounds. Great. Now I've lost 20 pounds, but I've learned how to keep 20 pounds off the rest of my life. Great. Now let me work on the next 10 pounds, right? It's a little bit of a slower process, but and for you, I mean, like I think it was about 40 pounds in a year
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
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 And that's pretty good, right? We want the average to be 1 pound per week. That's a little bit less than that, but that's still pretty good. All right. Um, it's a little bit of a slower process when you shift that mindset around of being like, hey, maintenance is the goal, right? And so it's a little bit slower process, but it's much more of a complete process because as you're going through losing weight, you're also figuring out what it takes in order for you to be able to maintain the weight, right?
Yep. Yep. That's where I think I is I had lost all that weight really well, really quickly, and now I'm learning, okay, life, we don't say it's not my worst because this is not my worst by any means, but it's
Yeah.
been hard. And so, I've yo-yoed a little bit here, but for the most part, it's coming back down now because I'm figuring out, oh, I actually can't, I need carbs at night, but maybe not at, 7 p.m. Let's have carbs
Mhm.
at 5 p.m. and see how things go. And that's something I've kind of figured out in the last couple weeks. Because sometimes my lifestyle means that I don't go to bed till 10 p.m. So I
Yeah.
need something to kind of maintain me through that. And the piece was, I was really hard. I lost all that weight really quickly, and life got in the way.
Mhm.
And so I was able to call you, was able to get back into it, and we're on a better trend now.
Yeah. Why do you, so you said you put carbs later in the evening.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Um, I was feeling like and it's not a lot. And when we say carbs, I'm not eating like a bowl of pasta. Like I'm adding a little bit of rice into my dinner with chicken and veggies. But that is because I was exhausted at night and I needed something a little bit more. I had been meeting my protein goals, and you had said, well, why don't you eat a little bit of carbs, whether that's a little potato or a little bit of rice, whatever it is. And so that was helping me feel better in the long term, and short term for that matter, to get through till bedtime
Got it.
and
Do you
through the
notice,
night.
oh, so, and do you notice any difference with sleep now that you have carbs a little bit late in the day? Like, are you sleeping better? Do you find it easier to fall asleep? Do you find it easier to stay asleep? Any difference in that?
Easier to stay asleep. I don't wake up much through the night
Awesome.
at all,
It, is
usually.
that a, is that a problem that you were having in the past?
Um, yes and no. I guess what I've been tracking too is the quality of my sleep. Making sure that I'm getting enough kind of deep sleep, light sleep, whatever cycles there are, REM sleep, so that I'm maintaining and able, my body is kind of going through those natural waveforms. Whereas before I'd wake
Hmm.
up at 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
and be hungry and not know why. And well, it's because my body was like, hey, you're hungry right now. So
Yeah.
not
Uh,
ideal for weight loss.
very, that's a very classic. Um, we see this with females that have some disrupted sleep patterns, and disrupted sleep could be problem falling asleep, could be problem staying asleep, could be a problem waking up, right? Like typically it's kind of those three, and usually it's either an issue falling asleep or it's an issue staying asleep. And what ends up happening, and this is it's tough to prove this. So the only way that I can really prove this is just by saying we've done this hundreds of times in the past and we've had this outcome. And so that's kind of my proof, right? But basically, what ends up happening is when we look at a stress response in the body, like a cortisol response, a stress response, typically the two best ways to really stress yourself out is poor sleep, low amounts of calorie intake, and high amounts of activity with low amounts of calorie intake.
Yeah.
So if you've been consistently chronically dieting for 10 years or 5 years or even a year, like that is a consistent calorie deficit. If you then couple that with large amounts of exercise and activity, you are really setting yourself up for a very high level of stress, which is going to impact your sleep. And so what will end up happening is basically as you're sleeping, so when you wake up in the morning, one of the things that should wake you up is cortisol going up. So as the night progresses, you go to sleep, your cortisol is low. And anybody who's tried to fall asleep while they're stressed out understands you cannot go to sleep if you are stressed. So if that cortisol is high in the evening, you're not going to be able to go to sleep because cortisol is high, right? So we want cortisol to be low in the evening. And that's how it should be high in the morning and then it naturally goes down throughout the day and it's the lowest in the evening before you go to bed. Well, you eat, What that does is that brings your blood sugar up. So as you're sleeping, well, that cortisol is slowly ramping up throughout the evening and into the early morning. So that one of the reasons why you wake up without an alarm clock is cortisol. Well, when you eat, so you have your dinner, food comes into your system, gets digested, gets broken down, and that energy gets pumped into your bloodstream. So now while you're sleeping, your blood sugar is elevated. Well, as you're sleeping, because you're not eating anything, because you're sleeping, as you're sleeping, blood sugar starts to go back down. So blood sugar is going down, cortisol is going up, but the faster this goes down and the steeper it goes down, the greater cortisol goes up. And you hit a certain point during the night, and typically it'll be between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning, where blood sugar's low, cortisol's high, and you wake up. And the reason why you wake up, and I think we've talked about this a lot, but so this is really more for people like listening. One of the reasons why you wake up from that scenario is you do not need a lot of sleep in order to function, right? If you're just talking about like just living day to day, right? LIVIN, right? Living. If you're just talking about living, you don't need a lot of sleep. 3 to 5 hours of sleep, you're going to be totally fine. You're not going to die. Now, if you're talking about like running a Fortune 500 company, or you're talking about dealing with a bunch of kids, you got to remember a bunch of shit about all those kids.
Yeah.
You need a much higher amount of sleep because you have a lot more brain activity that's happening, right? So if the body has a choice between, okay, I went to bed at 10, it's 1, I got 3 hours of sleep, that sucks. But what sucks even more is having that blood sugar go down, because this can kill you. If your blood sugar gets too low, you're dead. All right. So it's literally just a stress response that the body is saying, whoa, 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 wait a minute. My blood sugar is dropping way too fast, way too low. I need to bring that back up, or some really bad things will happen. So cortisol starts to go up. At a certain point, you essentially get enough cortisol in your system and blood sugar is low enough where you wake up. And a lot of times when you wake up, you're like, why am I awake right now? I'm not really hungry. Like nothing woke me up. This is really strange, right? And that's where we start to implement kind of what we talked about with you, where, hey, let's take carbs a little bit later in the day. Maybe let's have a little more carbs, whatever the case may be, so we can get that blood sugar a little bit higher, and that it drops not like this, but it drops a little bit um, less steep, right? And so what we find is, hey, we get some more carbs in the evening, even eating just more food throughout the day. All of a sudden, we find the members can sleep through the night, right? And there's a lot of other reasons why sleep might be an issue, but that tends to be a really easy, low hanging thing for people to do, especially if they have a long history of restrictive dieting with coupled with high levels of activity. Those two things, yeah, good reason to eat some more carbs, eat a little more calories in the day. All right, you said some other stuff. Let me go back to my notes here. All right, so you live close to the gym. You like what? What do you like? 15 minutes from the gym?
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes. 15 on a good day.
And we are a hybrid gym for people who are watching. We are a hybrid gym. That just means that we do have a brick and mortar facility we trade people in, so a little studio. But whether you are 15 minutes down the road, like Kyla, or whether you're in a totally different state, all of our clients are online clients. Kyla, do you do so usually we have 3 different or 4 different types of workouts. We can write a program you do on your own. We can write a program you take it to a gym. You come in, we train you in our small group, or you do Zoom. Um, which of those options do you do?
I do Zoom and I come in like for your group classes.
Okay.
So
Um,
I do not have a specific tailored program. I go with what
the small group.
the small group program is,
Yep.
but it's tailored in the sense of modifications and
Yeah.
changes as needed, for example, push-ups.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't do the push-up yet. I'm working on it, but I
Yeah.
can't. So that
Yeah.
I have access to a full gym.
Yeah.
So depending on what my schedule is, typically during the summer, I like to go in person.
Hmm.
Just because it's easier for me to have you guys kind of make some of those changes if I'm not doing something correctly.
Okay.
Um, which we can do over Zoom too. And then if I need to, my schedule doesn't align, then I can work out independently too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what is the highest weight that you've been at your entire, what's the highest weight that you've been at in your adult life?
245 pounds.
Okay. Is that when you came to us?
Yeah.
Lowest weight.
This spring after a vacation, believe it or not,
Mhm.
199.
199. So we broke into 200.
Yeah.
And then for you, towards the end of the school year, that's kind of a busier
Yeah.
time for you. And so I know that we kind of rebounded up a little bit. And then, we caught it a phone call and talked about some strategies to get back down. We're doing a check-in call later, so I don't want to take too much,
Yeah.
from this to talk about anything that we might be talking about later. Um, but the take-home point is basically you lost a shitload of weight. You went 245 down to 199, right? What's the goal weight that we talked about for you?
175.
So lost a bunch of weight, 199, went back up a little bit. How did that make you feel when you went back up a little bit?
Um, I didn't necessarily feel bad because I knew why it went back up. It was like, oh, here's the consequences to my actions kind of a deal. Um, and knowing that I had signed on for another year
Mhm.
with you guys, that it was something that I could handle and could continue to work on. Lost weight the first time, could do it the second time, just going kind of um back to what I was before, but it's really 10 pounds. Like you're saying, like that's kind of been my swing so far. It was about 10 pounds. And I wasn't necessarily upset, but I was more also, kind of inquisitive of why. I like to know why things happen, and we had talked about that, why things were going back up, so that we could
And
identify it and fix it.
what did we come up with? Because I said, how'd you make it feel? And you're like, I understood why it went back up. So what did we come up with a reason why the weight started to creep back up?
Food choices and lack of preparation.
So pretty simple in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
Um, Simple yet not easy, especially when you're going through periods of high stress.
Yeah.
Well, geez, periods of high stress, donuts, taste really good.
Cook-
Uh,
Cookies.
cookie,
Cookies are really yummy when you're stressed out, especially
cookies
when they're
and
fresh from the
brownies,
oven in the kitchen.
right? Right. Um, I always tell people, I don't want you to consistently lose weight every single week for 2 years because if you consistently lose weight every single week for 2 years, then you're never challenged. And then what ends up happening is at the end of those 2 years, you're down to your goal weight. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm terrified to eat any food. I'm terrified not to hit my steps. I'm terrified not to get my workouts in. You become a slave to the plan because you never deviate from the plan. And I need you to deviate from the plan because when you deviate from the plan, that's where all the magic happens in the grand scheme of things. Because when you deviate from the plan, that's where you start to destroy some limiting beliefs. That's where you start to figure out, oh, wait a minute. So I can have a little bit more food than I think I can have, and I don't really notice any difference the next day, right? Or hey, I understand why I'm reaching for the brownies because I'm really stressed out. That's the first thing is that you have to understand why you're reaching for the foods that maybe aren't the best for your plan. So you have to acknowledge like I'm doing this thing. Okay, why am I doing this thing? Well, because I'm stressed out. Great. Now we've learned some stuff, right? Like I always try and get people to understand every time you fail, you essentially should be learning something. Either, okay, I failed because I did this, that's not a good choice, or I failed because I didn't do that. All right, let's make sure I do that next time, right? It's when you go into a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I've failed. I'm a failure. I can't lose weight. It's never gonna like I'm never gonna reach my right. And it's like, no, that's not true. Um, so I do want you to not fail throughout the year, but I want some periods of time where weight doesn't go down. It just kind of stays the same, right? And that goes back to that whole maintenance thing. Your weight will never go down every single week consistently. And if it does, chances are you could probably get away with eating a little bit more food and exercising a little bit less for a couple of weeks just to kind of get an idea of what maintenance is going to look like, right? Um, all right, I had some notes here. Okay, so give me an outline of your current plan. So what we're going to do, so there's 5 things in every plan, all right? Are you tracking your weight?
Yes,
So that's the thing that we want to change, right? We want to change your weight. We want to get down to that 175 like we talked about. So that means that we must track the thing that we're trying to improve or change, right? So how often do you weigh yourself?
every day.
Great job. That was a loaded question.
Yes.
Um,
Well, yes.
does it,
So I do weigh myself every day. Yeah.
do you, a lot of times, not actually, not so much anymore, but in the maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, we would say that to women specifically, and they'd be like, "Oh no, 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 I can't weigh myself every day. It's like terrible. It's going to create craziness and all sorts of stuff, right?" And I have lines that I use for that. But how do you feel about weighing yourself every day? Does it create any kind of angst or anxiety or negative feelings in your head?
Sometimes if I see it go up, but then usually I know why it went up. Because we've talked about and I've kind of been coached on, well, your weight will fluctuate, 1 to 3% every day. Doesn't matter where you are within your hormonal cycle. Could just
Correct.
be, hey, you didn't sweat as much yesterday.
That's
So,
it. Yeah,
or
that's
hey,
it.
it went down because you're dehydrated.
Yep.
So knowing that it can fluctuate. And so I look at it. Yes, I weigh myself every day. It's great if it goes down every day, but I'm also not shocked if it goes up by a pound or two every day, like,
Yeah.
every once in a while because your body is not it's a thing, it's living. So
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah. You don't want your weight to go down. If your weight goes down every single day, if your weight goes down every single day, then you're gonna fucking die.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
You
you
won't
lose
have
weight
any weight
every
left.
single day, okay, then eventually you're gonna die, right? So we don't want to lose weight every single day. I love what you said. Um, I also want to add in one thing. Kyla also understands that when we look at long-term weight loss, or even just like any kind of weight loss in the grand scheme of things, we are always going to be talking about averages. And so if Kyla weighs in on 1 week and she has these 7 data points, but these 7 data points give us an average of 201, for instance. And let's say we have a low data point of 195 and we have a high data point of 203, but it averages out at that 201. Okay, well, what I want to see is I want to see the average of the following week be less.
Yeah.
So if the average of the following week is an average of 199.5, then great. We're seeing the results we want to be seeing, even though that average of 199.5 might have a high of 202 and a low of 194, right? And so it's not so much weighing yourself every day. Like there is magic in weighing yourself every day, but really the magic comes in when we get those 7 data points for the week and we figure out the average. And then we get the next 7 data points and we figure out the average. And we get the next 7 and we figure out the average. And we see that each time, each week, that average is getting a little bit lower each time. That's what we want. Right.
Yeah.
And by weighing ourselves every day, that allows us to be able to figure out what that average is. So I love that. So number one, you are weighing yourself every day and you are tracking that number. That is also an important part because sometimes people weigh themselves, but they don't track it. Well, if you don't track it, you don't remember what your weight was 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
right? And so you need to track it because that's what we're looking for. All right, the second thing that we have people do, this isn't necessarily in order, but the second thing we have people do is consume the same amount of hydration every day. And the reason why we have people consume the same amount of hydration every day is just like what Kyla had said. Hey, my weight's going to fluctuate. Weight fluctuates 1 to 3, 1 to 4% depending on the person every day, up and down. One of the ways that we can eliminate large weight swings is ensuring that hydration stays consistent. Because a gallon of water weighs about 8.25 pounds. So if one day we have a gallon and the next day we have a half a gallon, well, the day after that, we're going to be 4 pounds light because we had 4 pounds less water, right? Kyla, how much fluid are you drinking every day?
It's over a gallon. Straight water is at least a gallon. Right around there. It depends. Summer it's a little bit more because I sweat more.
Sure.
But but it is a minimum of a gallon every day. And then I drink tea. I don't drink coffee. So I do drink tea every once in a while, and I gotta have my afternoon Diet Coke. So,
I love it. I got no issues
uh,
with diet. I got no issues with 0 calorie beverages.
yep.
I love that. Yeah, water intake going to go up in the winter, or excuse me, go up in the summer. Generally speaking, we go 1 ounce of water, basically half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you're 200 pounds, it's 100 ounces of water, right? Just read something the other day that basically said all females, for all intents and purposes, should be drinking about 3 liters of water, which I think is like around 80 ounces, I think, ish. But take home point number one is that there's no agreed upon hydration status. Okay. So we just go off of one half body weight in ounces. And number two, if you do find yourself going to the bathroom every hour, or you're going to the bathroom like um, you should be going to the bathroom every roughly 3 to 4 hours ish, 3 to 4, 3 to 5, something along those lines. If it's like every hour, every 2 hours, that probably means you're drinking too much water and or you're not consuming enough electrolytes, sodium, magnesium, stuff like that. All right, so we weigh ourselves every day, we track it, we consume the same amount of fluid every day. For that fluid intake, how do you measure that? Like, do you have like 6 little tiny water containers? Do you have a big mason jar? Do you have a big 62-ounce water? Like, how do you measure your water?
I carry, it's not a Stanley cup, it's my Walmart cup. But I have a large, like 48 ounce container that I have, and I
So you
fill
know
that.
that you have to drink at least 2 of those, right?
Yeah, I typically three is the go-to.
Love it. I love that. I always try and get people to get their water intake in the least amount of servings possible, meaning like, hey, you only have to have 3 of those, which is about the same thing for me. I have about 3 or 4 of these a day. It's tough when somebody comes in and it's like an 8 or 12 ounce water container. And I'm like, all right, you have to have like 10 of those in order to hit your water goal. And they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. And then, I ask them at 6 p.m. at night and I go, hey, how many of those water cups have you had? And they're like, I have no idea. Most people, like, as it gets later in the day, you're not going to remember how many little 8 ounce cups of water you have, right? But
No.
if you have something like mason jar, or you have something like what Kyla has, well, it's really easy to then understand. All right, I've already had one. I need to have three, so I got to drink 2 more of these containers. Simple. I like that to be under 3 servings. So either, if you are drinking a gallon, then you want to try and get that in 3 servings or even one, gallon water jug. Awesome. Um, obviously, people are going to look at you a little weird. All right. So we covered uh, weighing yourself, constant hydration or consistent hydration. All right. Tell me what you're doing for your diet. You don't have to give me like the specifics because the specifics of the food that you are eating in the grand scheme of things aren't really going to matter that much.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask you some leading questions. All right.
Okay.
Do you eat the same number of meals every day?
Yes.
Good. How many meals do you eat every day?
Three.
Are you doing any protein shakes to help you reach your protein goal?
Yes.
How many protein shakes?
On average, one.
All right. For each one of those meals, what is something that's going to be present for each one of those 3 meals?
Protein.
Yeah. Lean protein, right?
Lean
Specifically
protein.
lean
Yes.
protein. Um, let's see here. How many meals a day do you have carbohydrates?
Right now, three.
All right. So every meal you have carbs,
Yep.
right? And that's something a little bit new, not necessarily new, but different because normally when we lost 45 pounds, it was 2 meals out of the day you have carbs.
Yeah.
It's important that not necessarily you, well, it's important that you understand, but also anybody watching this, the plan that you do to lose the first 45 pounds will most likely not be the plan that you're going to do to lose the next 25 pounds.
Yeah.
So Kyla at 245, well, she has a lot more body fat on her than she does at 200. So that means that we can be a little bit more restrictive with carbs and fat. But as her body weight goes down, she has less body fat available for her to use for energy. We have to give her a little bit more food. We give her a little bit more carbohydrates so that she has more energy to be able to do it in the workout and also get her steps in, right? Um, do you feel restricted on the diet?
No.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Um, when was the last time that you had a food that you really wanted to have?
This morning.
What'd you have?
I made a breakfast sandwich with English muffin, like a 100-calorie English muffin,
Yeah,
and some egg whites.
awesome. I love it. Um, that's awesome. All right. So, kind of take home point for the diet is if you are following a diet that you do not like, you will not follow that diet for long periods of time. And also, if Kyla wants to have like she's like, listen, I love breakfast sandwiches. Like I'd eat that shit every single day. So
Yep.
Kyla's like, hey, I want to have a breakfast sandwich every single day for morning. Right? We're like, okay, cool. Let's figure out how we can make that happen. Right? It's important that when we talk about maintenance as the goal, if we change your diet too much from where you actually want it to be for maintenance, you're not going to be successful in maintenance because you're following two totally different diets. And that means that you have to have two totally different lifestyles. But if we create your weight loss diet and your maintenance diet looks like that, well, then now it's not really two separate diets. It's really one diet that we change a little bit over here and change a little bit over here, but it's really the same diet, right? And we found that's the best way to go for maintenance. Um, all right. So we covered diet, we covered water, hydration, we covered weighing yourself, talk steps, how many steps you take every day.
12,000.
How many steps were you taking?
8,000.
All right. So as weight
Yeah.
goes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say with my lifestyle, it changes. And so when I'm in school and I'm working, it's a minimum of 10,000 without even trying.
Yeah.
So that's why we upped it. And now that I'm like on vacation where I have to actually physically go for a walk to get those things, then it's a little bit different. But during the school year, it's we are making time for that extra added walking, by
Yeah.
that adding 2,000 more steps.
Yeah. That's a big one. So a bigger person, like if you have a 4,000 square foot room and you have a 1,000 square foot room, it takes a lot more energy to heat a 4,000 square foot room than it does a 1,000. So what that means is a heavier person, so like somebody who weighs 250 pounds, that person is burning more calories just by moving around than somebody who weighs 200 pounds. So it's very common that as weight goes down, we have to figure out some way to be able to create more of a calorie deficit. And that might be because you're burning less calories at a lower body weight, right? That might be eating a little bit less food. That's not really an option we want to go, but that's an option. It could be walking an extra 2,000 steps every day. That's the one that we chose. It could also be increasing exercise, basically leaving food alone and just increasing calorie burn through activity, right? And I think that's what we chose for you. Yeah. Generally speaking, it's always anytime that you can reduce food last, that's what we want to do. So anytime that we can increase activity versus reducing food, we always want to do that because nobody's happy eating less food, right? So we can get you to move a little bit more. And in turn, moving a little bit more allows you to eat a little bit more food to see the results you want. Then that's the win that we're going after, right? Um, all right. So we covered diet, we covered steps, and you're also tracking those steps, right?
Yes, I wear
Just like you would
a
your weight.
watch.
Yeah. Okay. Um, why do we want people to wear a watch and not the phone? Because as much as you think this is with you all the time, it's not. And when we talk about steps, we want to track everything. We want to track every single time that you're moving your body around. We want to track that, right? And so that's how a wearable step tracker. What do we have left? Sleep. So we already kind of talked about sleep a little bit. So I'm not really going to touch too much on sleep, but I do have a question. Do you do you go to bed at the same time every night and or do you wake up at the same time every morning?
Um, so that one's a little tricky. It depends. Generally, if we're talking averages, yes. Yeah, yes, that's the short answer.
Good job. Because we are talking
Yeah.
averages. Yeah, excellent job. Um, all right, so this is not so the five things that we really focus on for most people are going to be, tracking the thing that we're trying to change, consistent hydration, some kind of, meal plan, diet, et cetera, et cetera. tracking steps, and then sleep. Those are like the five horsemen of results, right? Or horsewomen of results. The sixth thing is going to be exercise. It's going to be resistance training, right? And how many days a week do you work out?
3.
Three. Pretty easy.
Yes. Yes. It is easy to go
Not the
3 times.
workout
Yes,
itself.
the workout is not always easy, but it is easy to go 3 times a week.
Yes. That's an important thing. We want to make sure that the entire process is as easy as possible because this kind of goes back to having tools when it's really hard and tools when it's really easy, right? This also ties into motivation. If we can make the plan really easy, really, really easy, then it's much easier to follow it when life is hard. And if we make the plan really easy, then when life is easy, well, we can always make that plan a little bit more complex, right? And so in the summer for you, maybe a little bit more complexity to the plan. And then as the spring rolls around, or excuse me, as the fall rolls around and school starts to kick, oh, then we want to have it be a simpler plan because you have less energy, time, brain power to devote towards your plan, right? So you have to adjust that plan. Um, so I always want, when we talk about exercise, talk about workout, it should be easy for you to get your workouts in. I don't mean like easy could mean a bunch of different things. Easy could be like you work out at home, so it takes you like 2 minutes to get to your basement. Easy could also be you're 10 or 15 minutes away from the gym. That's an easy drive for you, right? But if I have somebody and I ask them like, hey, how many days a week do you think you can work out? And they're like, I can work out 5. We're going to start them on 2 or 3 because consistency is the single most important thing we talk about this whole adventure that we're on. And if one week you get an average of 8,000 steps and you work out 3 days a week, and the next week your average is 12,000 steps, you work out 5 days a week, and the next week your average is 6,000 and you work 2 days a week, your results are going to be all over the place. And then you're going to come to us, and you're going to say, listen, my results are over the place. Like, I just don't understand what I'm doing. I'm following the plan. And we're like, well, you are following the plan, but you're not consistent in those things that you're doing. Sometimes you get 8,000 steps and sometimes you get 3,000. And sometimes you work out 5 days a week and 3 days a week, right? So it's much better if you just maintain consistent things. And then we look at, all right, what happened over those 2 weeks doing these consistent things? Now, what do we need to change? Right. So I like the fact that the workouts are not necessarily easy for you to do in the workout, but it's easy for you to get those 3 workouts. Right. Right, let's see here. Um, what were some challenges that you fought and overcame?
Um, for me, snacking,
Okay.
and mindless snacking,
Okay.
where, oh, I'm hungry. I'm not actually hungry. I'm bored or I'm stressed. So that was something that I have worked really hard on, to stop doing.
Excellent.
And I'm not perfect by any means.
Sure.
But I have found a replacement for that. Like if I can keep busy or if I can find something to do, great, then I can
Yeah.
avoid snacking. Um, and then figuring out kind of new meals that are like, I really love these things. Okay, well, I really love pasta. Can I still have pasta? What does that look like?
Hmm.
Can't, that sort of piece was hard, but and honestly, now I don't even crave it. Like it's not something that's like necessarily part of my routine as much as it was. It's just kind of worked its way out. And then I guess my big thing that why one of the reasons why I started, and I know that this got highlighted, was that I was kind of sick and tired of being the last one up the mountain, so to speak, and holding people back. And the other day, not the other day, it was like a month ago, but the month ago, I hiked Cardigan Mountain, and we were the last group to leave. And I wasn't even the last person up. So that was like woohoo for me. Um, so I guess some of those challenges that I have overcome have come with losing weight. So physical things that I might not have been able to do before. Finding a love of, hey, I actually really like deadlifting things. I didn't know I liked that, but I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You're built to
so
deadlift too.
so yeah, so that's like some mind over matter there, in those things. And then I think, just like being afraid and uncomfortable with like this whole idea of being in a gym.
Hmm.
Because I lacked the confidence. I was like, oh, I don't need to go to a gym with a bunch of skinny people. Like, it's fine now. Like, I don't care. But before, it was really intimidating. And one, not knowing what to do. Two, body images. Three, I'm like, I'm going to be judged because I can't do a push up. That sort of stuff. And now it's like, hey, I can go to the gym and guess what? I don't care that I do a push up using the push up rack or a
Yeah.
supported band because guess what? That's more push ups that I just did now than I was doing before I started. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. So those
Yes.
are kind of the big things for me.
I love that. That's awesome. I want every person to be able to go into a gym with confidence, right? Confidence and comfortability. Because so I go to Planet Fitness to get my workouts done just because they have some toys over there. It keeps it fresh a little bit that we don't have here. And I judge every single person that is in that gym.
Yeah.
All right. Like it's no different than if somebody's like a mechanic goes to like some garage that has all of these tools out and people are just using the tools to work on their car. That mechanic is going to judge everybody and they're going to be like, you're not even holding that drill right. Like you don't even
Yep.
know how to turn that screw, right? Um, and a lot of people, most people in a commercial gym do not know what they're doing, right? Because they never actually took some time to learn it. Um, our classes, we always wanted to make our classes with no judgments, right? So it's very important to us that you're working hard enough that you don't know what the hell anybody else is doing. So not only can you not judge other people, but they can't judge you because they're too busy in their own world trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get an extra 3 reps out of this push up, right? Um, I love all that. That was awesome. You you highlighted a really important thing. Eh, Weight loss is not the goal. Okay. Now, maintenance is the goal, but more importantly, nobody wants to lose weight to be happy. So let me clarify that.
I know what you mean, but for other people.
I know you know what I mean. So you talk to Kyla, right? And this is when she first came to us, and I go, Kyla, what's your goal? And we talk about weight loss, right? She's like, I want to lose weight. And I go, all right, cool. And I go, how much weight, right? We came up with some ideas, some goals. And I go, well, why do you want to lose the weight? And you had a bunch of reasons as to why you wanted to lose the weight. And one of the things that you said was the hiking thing, but wasn't there another thing about a run? Am I
Oh
making that
yeah,
up?
I did that too. Which I did not do with a group because of my assignment that day. There's a 5 mile lake run. So
Yeah.
I've been a part of my school community for now. I just finished my 11th year, and this was the first time that I have even remotely considered doing the lake run. And it's not like an easy straight 5 miles. It is a hilly 5 miles. Now, was I the fastest person out there? Absolutely not.
That's okay.
But I also wasn't the slowest. And I did it, which is more than I was doing before. So,
Yeah.
to have the ability to do that, do it within a time frame that was realistic, because we're like, well, if I can do it in this time frame, that child can do it in this time frame, kind of a
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not something I would have done before.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of what my other goals were. And I don't know if I have any other goals at the moment, because I think I've met them all.
It was
Because
the
my
5K or 5 mile. It was the
five
hiking, weight
miles, the
loss,
hiking,
obvious.
and weight loss, being the next big thing. But then my blood work and all of my blood work is
Yeah.
fine, normal.
Yeah.
So,
Uh, People, when I talk to somebody and they say they want to lose weight, they do want to lose weight, but really they want to achieve other things. Like Kyla wanted to be able to not be the last person up the mountain. Well, guess what? That's going to be a hell of a lot more successful if she's 40 pounds less, right? But you accomplish that goal before you reach your actual goal weight. The 5 mile, again, you at 245, that's pretty hard to do. You at 200, that's much easier to do. But you accomplished that 5 mile before you got down to your goal weight. And sometimes the hardest thing is to get people to be truthful with themselves and be truthful with me when they say, I want to lose the weight. Because really, it's not that you want to lose the weight. You want to look amazing in the clothes that you have. You want to walk into a room and feel confident in your appearance and your presentation. You want to be able to hike that mountain. You want to be able to run that 5 mile. You want to go on dates and feel amazing in the clothing. That's not obviously you per se, but like,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
all reasons as to why somebody wants to lose weight. And so if you're watching this and you're like, well, I want to lose weight. And I want you to imagine me asking you a question, why do you want to lose weight? And I want you to take that 3 to 6 whys. Why do you want to lose weight? Well, because I'm not happy with how I look. Why are you not happy with how you look? Well, because my husband doesn't give me the attention that I want. Well, why doesn't that, right? So it's like you ask these whys, and eventually you get down to the real reason of why you want to lose the weight. And it might be something like, I want to feel more confident in my clothing. That's why I want to lose the weight. All right. So that means we have two goals. That means we have the goal of you feeling confident in your clothing, and that means that we have the goal of weight loss. One of these two things will happen before the other one, and chances are you're going to feel better in your clothing before you will actually get to your goal weight, right? And so that's the take home point that I want everybody at home to kind of understand is that weight loss is not your primary goal. That's what you think your primary goal is, but really your primary goal is feel better in my clothing, feel better in the bathing suit, love what I see in the mirror, be able to do 10 push-ups, and I can't do 10 push-ups, I'm 60 pounds overweight, right? That's really the goals that you're trying to achieve, and weight loss will help you achieve those goals. I had some questions. Let me make sure I got all the questions. All right, last question. What is your biggest struggle right now
Um,
in terms of weight loss maintenance, however you want to kind of phrase that?
yeah, I think not in this exact moment, but when I'm working, um my biggest struggle is making sure that I am giving time to take care of myself. Because I am a people pleaser. I work too hard. Most people will say I do too many things. And a lot of times I will put other people first before myself.
Mm,
So my biggest struggle is not feeling working on not feeling bad about that, and
mm.
continuing to still be productive at work and do what I need to do.
Just started with that question. Um,
You can cut it and put it back at the beginning if you want.
yeah, right. All right. I'm gonna make okay. Most people have been on an airplane, and this is like the classic line, right? Like you go on an airplane, like I'm going with my kid, airplane starts to go down, gas masks drop out of the ceiling, right? Do you put the gas mask on yourself first and then your kid? No, or do you put the gas mask on your kid first, right? You got to put the gas mask on yourself first because if you put the gas mask on them and they're getting oxygen, and in the process of you putting it on yourself, you pass out, that doesn't help anybody because now your kid doesn't have a parent to take care of them and you're dead, right? So you got to put that mask on yourself first so that you are there to take care of that person, then put the mask on them. Um, Without fail, the more time up to a certain point that you can spend on yourself, the easier it is for you to show up for other people. And it's a little bit of it's very counterintuitive because you're saying like, wait a minute, by me showing up more for myself, it makes it easier to show up. Yes, that's exactly what it does. It makes it easier to show up for other people because you have more energy, you're rested. Um, it's just in general, you just feel better. And anytime that you feel better, it's always going to be easier to deal with other people because it's difficult to deal with other people when you don't feel that good, right? In order to lose weight, in order to transform your body, you have to have a degree of selfishness. You have to. Not a lot. This is not like, if you want to be like a bodybuilder, if you want to get up on stage in a bikini, well, that's where you have to, it goes beyond selfishness and it goes into self centered. Well, everything has to revolve around me and my goal, right? That's not what you need for weight loss. You don't need everything to revolve around you and your goal, but you do have to be selfish enough so that most of the things that you're doing are going to move you closer to your goal. And the people that put their kids ahead of themselves all the time, the people that put their significant other ahead of themselves all the time, the people that put their grandmother or their aunt or their third cousin ahead of themselves, those are the people that are going to be heavier 10 years from now than they are right now. And it's a it's a tough thing to get, especially females. Males totally different. Um, but females just kind of that caregiver, just like, hey, I want to take care of people. You know, typically I will tell people that you need between 1 to 3 hours every day in order to invest on yourself. That's about like, well, 24 hours in a day. So 2.5 hours is 10% of your day. So you have to take like roughly 10 to maybe 20% of your day, depending on if it's a workout day or not. You got to take 10 to 20% of your day to focus on yourself. And that might be like going for a walk, getting your workout in, prepping your meals. That might be taking a bath before you go to bed at night. That might be watching some easy TV before you go to bed to help you relax, right? So there's a bunch of different ways that 1 to 3 hours could look like. But the important thing is that you are taking 1 to 3 hours every day and you're just saying, this is me time. This is time I'm going to spend on myself, knowing that if I don't spend that time on myself, I will not be able to reach my goals. So you have to have a degree of selfishness. You are also no kids, right? And you're single?
Uh, Yeah, single, no children of my own.
Okay.
But I do live at a boarding school with there are 14 boys in my dorm, so none that I can walk away from them.
Yeah. 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 That's good. Um, yeah, anytime that you are single, it is really the best time for you to focus on yourself because when even like, pet, like you got a dog needs to be walked. Oh, the dog pissed on your floor at 3 o'clock in the morning and now you got to get up and deal with it, right? So like anytime that you have some person or something else in your life, they're going to draw some time away from you, right? And it's pros and cons to that. But I always tell people if you are single, you don't have any kids, or let's say your kids are grown, they're out of the house, um, you don't have a significant other, you don't have somebody who's in your immediate space that's going to sabotage you, not on purpose, although sometimes it's on purpose. That is really the best time for you to be able to focus on yourself. That is not the time that you should be feeling sorry for yourself and eating the large pizza on Friday night with the 6 pack of beer. That is the time that you should be focusing on yourself because eating the large pizza and the 6 pack of beer is probably going to happen when you find that other person because they had a shitty day at work and they want you to celebrate their shitty day at work with them with pizza and beer, right? So you have nobody in your life that's going to sabotage you. All right, Kyla, I kept you for an hour. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to talk to you again in like
A couple hours.
couple hours for your check-in call, but it will probably be short because we kind of covered a lot. Um, I really appreciate your time. I'm gonna save this, make it available to everybody. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Kyle. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.